he and I have been together. And there are so many Bills fans here. I'm like, of course. And he said, I just met a guy who told me he grew up listening to you. And I said, and I had my son with me on speaker in the car. I said, well, I can certainly believe that. He said, Mike, he's 42. Eric Wood with us now on the Western Hotline. Eric's been doing what he's doing a long time.
Right.
It's going to happen to you too, Eric, someday, if you're lucky.
Yeah, I think we're probably going on about 15 years. So, yeah, he was in his 20s, so I guess he was growing up listening to me on here with you guys too. So, yeah, maybe not as much of a diss as Andrew thought that was going to be. I want to know, you guys are live, not in studio. You guys are at Dashes. Schopp, did you go shorts today or no?
No. I could have, but what I did do, I texted Eric earlier because whatever day it was last week, I had a Pirates, when we were at the arena, Tuesday?
Yep.
I had a Pirates visor on. And Eric texted me, he's like, what's with the Pirates visor? And I'm like, I forgot it's the Steelers this week. I wasn't even thinking about that. I just have a black jacket, and I wanted the visor to go with the jacket. And today, the top visor on my pile was Reds. And Eric's reason for asking me this was,
thought you guys
Reds bros.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's Bengals week. So I'm like, I can't wear the Reds visor having had this trauma from last week. But, Eric, I still did go Ohio State. I thought that was separate enough from the Reds that I could wear Ohio State. Is that okay?
It is, yeah. I grew up in Cincinnati, and we were not Ohio State fans. There are a lot of Ohio State fans there. We were not. So it's not like there's a Bengals to Buckeyes super connection there.
Yeah. Why were you not Ohio State fans? Is it either you love them or you hate them?
I was a University of Cincinnati basketball fan. That was probably my top college team. And then growing up, going to Catholic schools, we were more I was more Notre Dame football than Ohio State.
All right.
So how satisfying does a game like yesterday for a former lineman like yourself get the juices flowing at all? A game where the Bills are just absolutely running over not just any team, but a Pittsburgh team with whatever their current state of affairs is, doesn't matter to this. Their reputation is of wanting to do that to you. I got to imagine that touched some nerves in a good way for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome to see as a former offensive lineman. Those are the games where we take a lot of pride in those in the locker room. From a broadcasting perspective and doing media appearances throughout the week, I love when they can stay balanced and, nowadays when the passing game can go going too, because I don't have to defend them as much throughout the week. But, no, as a former offensive lineman, that was awesome to see. And one of my keys to the game was, you got to have a plan against T.J. Watt, and you have two backup tackles. And, I spoke during the week that I had a lot of confidence in those guys, and Josh Allen talked after the game that he had a lot of confidence in them, but you still don't want to throw them to the wolves and just leave them out there with a ton of pass protection reps against T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Herbig, the group that they got on the outside. So love the way that they were able to establish the run in that game and be completely dominant. And then, coming off a week where Josh takes the most hits in his entire career in a game, 8 sacks, to not have to rely on the passing game. Josh, I think, took 1 hit in the pocket throughout the game. So absolutely loved it. Yes, I loved that.
I wonder if it reminded you of any other Bills games in how the crowd got so hostile, relatively speaking, if they were even still there. You had games where, the crowd leaves. You have games like, I don't know, this is probably not entirely fair, but the game in Charlotte where, okay, well, we knew you guys were way better and it doesn't hurt that bad. But you got Fire Tomlin. The Steelers have had 3 head coaches in my lifetime. The guy's won a Super Bowl, and it's gotten that aggressive in Pittsburgh. I thought of the game in Foxborough, Bulldog, that I missed.
Belichick threw the phone.
Belichick throwing the phone, like, oh, it is over now for us. I wonder if yesterday sort of evoked anything like that for you.
Since I've been in the broadcast booth, we've had a number of times where opposing fan bases have left. I don't know if I've been in as hostile of an environment as yesterday. In reference to that New England game, like New England's kind of got this like arrogant, apathetic crowd there where it's not the toughest place to play in the league from a, noise standpoint or how wild their fan base is. It's tough to play because during the time I was playing there, they were very good and they had Tom Brady. But yesterday was a unique atmosphere in the fact that, there was grumblings early in that game from the fan base. And it didn't sound like a normal Steelers crowd with the support even that they were giving their team. And then they obviously didn't give them a whole lot, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to cheer about. Neither team was having many fireworks in the first half. So a fairly boring game if you like high scoring. And then as soon as the Bills started to put it on them, it was rough to the point where, they're booing during the Renegade song. And I know that everyone's talked about that, but I mean, imagine Bills get on a rough streak and they play Mr. Brightside, and I know that doesn't have the standing tradition that Renegade has in Pittsburgh, but if Bills fans start cheering or start booing when they play Mr. Brightside in our stadium, things have gone completely awry for this organization.
I'm always amazed at the lack of flexibility the people who are in charge of that sort of stuff inside the stadiums seem to have. Like, does Renegade have to be played?
Yes.
They're losing by 20. Like, what are you doing? Does it get played no matter what? I mean,
yes.
I haven't followed it that closely. The first time I ever heard about it was back when the Bills won there with Trey White, like whenever that was, 17. We talked about it.
19.
19, thank you.
I think.
And like, Matt Barkley's on the sideline waving his parka around above his head, and the Bills sort of embraced it. That's when I found out that the Steelers have this tradition. But it seems like the kind of thing you should not – it's like playing the goal horn when you're down 6-0 with 3 minutes to go in a hockey game. Maybe lay off the goal horn right now. Like, I think Renegade should have been skipped yesterday.
It definitely could have. So, like, my understanding, and I've played there and called games there probably 6-7 times, and it's to start the fourth quarter. It's like that TV timeout going into the fourth quarter, the crowd just starts going nuts. Well, they didn't do it then, and I said to Chris Brown during the TV timeout, I said, wow, they're not even going to play Renegade today. Well, then they did it about 6 or 7 minutes into the fourth quarter, which I'm like, if you kept with the tradition and just played it coming out of the fourth, coming out of that TV timeout into the fourth quarter, I get it. I didn't understand the timing of it, but yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes there is maybe a little bit of a disconnect between the events operation staff and what maybe those in the organization, others in the organization feel was appropriate at the time.
Yes.
Look, now's not the time. That's just
not today.
Not now. Not now, kids.
But they always do it. The guy's still screaming third down with 3 minutes left.
I know.
I mean, that always works. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Michigan, all the winners yelling third down all the time, even when their teams are getting blasted. I'm just, again, with the Buckeyes. Eric Wood with us here on the West Her Hotline. Well, Eric, it was not. I mean, you mentioned the first half, kind of a uneventful, to be kind, first half. It's still, I think, listening to fans and talking with Bulldog, not a game where everybody's like completely at ease with the Bills, like not really didn't need it. I guess that's the obvious counterpoint, but a downfield passing game worth, worrying about, I guess, if you're an opponent. What's your overall from this game? Like, they did a very thorough physical job and ended up winning easily. 9 sacks as well on defense, but still, you could say that there are still issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look around the NFL right now, there's a lot of flawed teams out there. And that's just the fact of the matter right now. But, the Bills passing game did not come alive. You're playing without Kincaid. You're playing without Palmer. You're playing without your 2 tackles. You want to establish the run, so you lean into that heavier to maybe not necessarily get into a rhythm in the passing game. You had a couple drops / misfires from Josh Allen, and you have 2 false starts 3 false starts that essentially put us in longer down and distance and made conversions and pass attempts more difficult and Josh throws an interception early, and James Cook has a fumble. And I say all those things. It's just the margin for error, especially in our passing game right now, is not what it once was. And maybe I'm hopeful that as Brandon Cooks gets more integrated, Gabe Davis gets more integrated, and then with Palmer and Kincaid back, and then, hopefully Deion's back this week, and I'm not sure the timetable on Spencer Brown, but I'm hopeful that with those added weapons back in there, more integration with Davis and Cooks, that this can be a passing attack that can light it up when it needs to. Now, I think there's times this year where we've run the football so well, we haven't needed to get into the passing game enough to where we haven't gotten into a rhythm. And I don't want to just point at the Buccaneers game and say, look, we did it. But early on in that game, it was pretty evident it wasn't going to be that easy to run the football. So we took a couple shots deep down the field, didn't necessarily hit them. That freed up some space in the middle of the field, knowing that we're going to take some shots down the field. And that was a game where Josh had a bunch of passing attempts, and the passing game was clicking. And so, I'm not panicked, and I'm not saying that this can't be a great passing attack. You have Josh Allen back there. But, yes, there are still concerns about the passing game coming out of yesterday. That's a fact for sure.
All right, well, I guess we'll see how much they need it when they get on the field with Cincinnati, a team that has a pretty poor defense, putting it kindly, but has been prolific through the air. Burrow just back. They pull off the upset over Baltimore on Thanksgiving, so we'll see what kind of form they're in. Defensively in this game, it gets sort of swept aside as Pittsburgh was inept. And, maybe you're just going to have a day no matter what against them, with Rodgers, playing with the cast or the splint or whatever that was on his left arm. But one guy I want to ask you about is Shaq Thompson, because I'm just watching the game live and then going through different clips that cross my Twitter feed through the day today. I just feel like that is a guy that, like, attitude-wise, play style-wise, man, I love the impact he's having on that defense. And he was an easy guy to sort of eye roll. Oh, it's Carolina guy again. Here we go. Man, I think he's been exactly what that defense has needed.
Yeah, for as many times as we critique them for kind of, bringing back the repeater players or guys they've coached, this one appears to have worked out really well. Yes, he is an absolute tone setter out there. I believe it was Joe earlier today on WGR I saw where he was showing about how the difference in yards per carry when he's on the field as opposed to off of the field or not playing in a game is dramatic. When he's out on the field, teams are rushing for less than 4 yards a carry, and on the season we're giving up around 5 or more per carry on the season. And so he's definitely making a difference out there. He's bringing a veteran leadership, a toughness. He plays with an edge and a nastiness. I won't say the word I described Alec Anderson yesterday on the roundtable, but yeah.
Oh, I want to know it now.
Yeah, I'll text you, but anyway,
Okay.
he brings.
I can tell him. I didn't hear the roundtable, but I have a 99% chance I know what you said.
Yeah,
Okay.
he plays with an edge out there that you have to respect what he's bringing to the table. I think that rubs off on guys. Also, with the amount of injuries that we've had at defensive tackle, having a bigger, more physical linebacker in there, I think, helps out this defense. Milano and Bernard are lighter players. They shoot gaps well. Well, at times when our D tackles aren't keeping those guys off the second level, they can get engulfed by the offensive lineman. Shaq Thompson's a bigger, more physical player at that second level, and I've been impressed with him. I had concerns about him, making it through a season at his age, coming off an Achilles, a hamstring in the preseason. Well, now it's the final stretch of the season. You're not saying, okay, we need to preserve this guy anymore. We're in December football now. This is the final push, and then through the playoffs, I feel like he's got to be a guy that's out there every single Sunday. Now, if it's a platoon system with passing downs and whatever it may look like, this is a guy that I want to see out there each and every Sunday the rest of the way.
That's exactly where I'm at. Okay, I think, and Bernard is the player that isn't getting mentioned here. Oh, you did just mention he and Milano in their style. That's an athlete, and that's pass coverage. but it is not someone who's as physical at the point of attack. And he's also been playing, I think, on one leg for a lot of the year, Bernard. Right?
Yes, and look, I'm as big of a fan as Terrell Bernard as there is. I think he is an excellent linebacker. When he's healthy, he's so athletic and fast, and he's smart, and he's instinctive. When he shoots gaps and makes plays in the backfield, he can rush the passer well, he can play well in coverage. Those are the types of linebackers you have to game plan for. A guy that, doesn't make plays behind the line of scrimmage. He fills up the stat sheet with, 10 tackles a game, 5-6 yards down the field. Those guys are just guys. You can find those all throughout the league. I think when fully healthy, Terrell Bernard is a difference maker at linebacker. It's been evident this year that he's had likely multiple things bothering him to take away that athleticism, which is the main strength of his game.
Eric, so you made a point that I'm hearing a lot, how, we even talked about this an hour ago, like nobody's that good this year. There's no clear – we got done with last season, everybody agreed the Eagles had just the perfect roster. They were too good for the league. Who is interesting in the AFC? The Bills still have a problem getting to first place, but they did a great job for themselves yesterday in the playoff picture. The idea of going to Foxborough, which the Bills will do in less than 2 weeks, or Denver, which we got to look at last night, maybe even Houston again or Jacksonville. Is there a team that you think is especially interesting, even, in the NFC if you want, but because this is the conversation right now, is how the Chiefs are out and the Ravens look bad and the Bills have had their challenges. Is there one of these other teams you think the Bills would prefer to avoid, say?
Probably Houston, just based upon the fact that they've had our number, and defensively they are very strong. If they stay healthy defensively, that is an elite unit on that side of the ball. Going down there, it's a very, very loud stadium to play in. Going to Denver, they have a good defense. Bo Nix, I got to watch the entire game home on my entire game last night on my ride home, and I understand they're playing against Washington, and if Benito doesn't tip that pass, they lose to the Commanders, who aren't a very good football team at this point and playing with a backup quarterback. But Bo Nix seems to be a guy that's going to be a legit quarterback in this league. But neither of those teams the Bills are likely favored in both those games, even on the road in the playoffs. And so, I think it's pretty wide open. And, just to take it back to the Bills, if we can catch some luck with injuries and get healthy heading into the playoffs and get some guys back and avoid some other catastrophic injuries like we've seen this season that have really hurt, the defense in particular. But I don't think anybody wants to play the Bills in the playoffs either. We're talking about who we'd want to avoid. I don't think anyone wants to face the Bills in the playoffs either. You talk about Josh Allen in a one-and-done situation, and he's probably the guy that everyone probably fears the most in the AFC right now. Especially when you look at the playoff picture, the Chiefs, if they get in, Patrick Mahomes has just done it so often in the postseason, you throw him in the mix there as well.
What do you think about this? Like Denver.
I'm the idiot that thought Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins were going to handle their business last Thursday in Houston. I saw Denver with the reputation they had last year coming into this stadium. Now, going there, I know, is different, just like going to Houston would be different. But I don't think that's out of my league. I just don't. The Bills hammered that team last year in the playoffs.
They did.
And the key guys are still the same key guys. So, I don't know, maybe, does home or road make that much of a difference? I know Chris made the point, I think, to us even on the roundtable before the Thursday game in Houston, that defense in their building is a very different thing than being on the road. Would Denver sort of fall into the same idea?
I'd imagine so. That's a pretty loud stadium. Dealing with that elevation can be difficult. You're generally more winded than you are playing at normal elevation as opposed to playing in Denver. But no, like I said, I think I'm not even just trying to make a homer take here. The Bills are likely favored against all those teams in their building.
New England too?
I'd assume so. I mean, we'll see what the line does in a couple weeks, but I'd assume the Bills will be favored in that one. And you know, they got Milton Williams out, their left tackle. Campbell's out now. Obviously, a game tonight that they should beat the Giants, but heck, there was 8 upsets according to the point spread already this weekend. Let's see if we can get one more and make it a lot more interesting.
Their starting center. Sorry, I thought you were winding down. I didn't mean
no,
to,
you're
I just
fine.
wanted to jump in. Their starting center is on the injury report with an illness, questionable too. So they're already down 2 starters, and they could be down 3 if he doesn't feel better by kickoff tonight. I mean,
is that an important position?
Center. Put anybody in.
No, not very. Not if you have really good guards.
Well,
not if you have good guards.
Right. Seth Walder from ESPN, using whatever metrics and whatever else he's using, tweeted today that the likeliest wild card game as of now is Bills-Ravens. And it looked like that a week or two ago also. But he had it 24%. Not, more likely than not, but more likely matchup than any other matchup, AFC or NFC, would be Buffalo-Baltimore at 4-5. Bills are maybe favored there too. The Ravens don't look good. I mean, Pittsburgh looks worse, I guess. Cincinnati comes in and they're live, right?
Yeah, two games back right now. And Pittsburgh looks like they're falling apart. Lamar Jackson has really struggled these last few weeks. Everyone talks about how Lamar's developed as a pocket passer. He has developed as a pocket passer, but that's when the threat of the run was there as well. So all your coverages are dictated on the fact that we might even need 2 guys to contain Lamar if he gets out on if he breaks the pocket. Well, between the hamstring, dealing with a toe, or whatever else he's got going on, he can't break away from people right now, and that offense is really struggling. And John Harbaugh's taken a lot of criticism. Now, some of it's likely Monken with the times of the games where they just refuse to give Derrick Henry the ball. It's an interesting situation there in Baltimore as well. And with the injuries they've had on the defensive side of the ball as well, it's not as feared of a defense when you think Baltimore Ravens as it historically has been.
Pittsburgh at Baltimore this Sunday. I think that's also a 1 o'clock game like ours. So there it is. Eric, we kept you a little long. Thanks for your Yep.
No, you're fine. Real quick, I was talking to Jim Nance before the game yesterday, and I said, how mad is CBS that they gave up the Burrow-Allen matchup? I said, do you think they did it too soon? What were your thoughts? And he was like, well, at the time you just assumed that either Burrow likely wasn't going to make it back or that they were going to be so far out of it that it's okay, let's not risk him. And he's like, yeah, but of course if we could look back and do it over, we would have kept it in our top spot in the afternoon.
Very good. Thanks again, Eric. We'll talk to you next week.